Hey everyone, and welcome back to another ArmA 3 video. I'm going to take a quick detour for mods in this video and highlight what I believe to be the top 20 vehicles of the ArmA 3 vanilla assets. These are vehicles that come with the base game or were included in one of the many DLC packs Bohemia has launched over the years. I'm very much a vehicle-driven player. Any chance I get to be behind the wheel of a tank or APC or sitting in the cockpit of a fighter or a helo, I'll take. Rarely will I venture out on foot, as my personality is a typically loud and forceful presence. Thus, I relish in the idea of being a mobile fortress of armor and firepower. There are other times where I would prefer to be in the support role, providing critical and tight-turning artillery support, dropping off extra vehicles for the ground pounders, or simply running troops and ammo to and from the front line. ArmA gives you options on what benefits you bring to the fight. So with that, let's get into the top 20 vehicles of ArmA 3. Starting us off at number 20 is old tried and true, the UH-80 Ghost Hawk. The Ghost Hawk is a medium-lift, twin-engine, rotary-wing stealth helicopter designed for sling-loading cargo and providing armed overwatch while transporting troops to and from the battlefield. Designed around the combat-proven UH-60 Blackhawk, the Ghost Hawk is the aerial workhorse of the NATO faction. Capable of seating a pilot, co-pilot, and 2 aerial gunners, the Ghost Hawk's cargo capacity still allows for 8 additional fully armed combat troops while also being able to sling load ammo and weapon containers. Armed with a pair of M134 6.5mm minigun turrets with 4,000 rounds of ammunition, the Ghost Hawk is very capable. Its stealthy design dates back to the raid on Osama bin Laden's compound and subsequent elimination during Operation Neptune Spear in May 2011. This stealthy profile was further refined and now allows for a reduced radar cross-section, far smaller than that of its AAF and CSAT counterparts. The blades were also designed to be much quieter than that of its competitors, allowing for it to get much closer before being audibly detected, while the AAF and CSAT aircraft can be heard from multiple kilometers away. All in all, the Ghost Hawk is a combat-proven, trusted workhorse that can be seen anywhere that NATO and ground troops are engaged in combat or support operations. Exceptional Ghost Hawk pilots are well known in the flying community, having been the reason a critically endangered pilot or combat team made it back to base safely. Combat search and rescue is a perfect fit for the Ghost Hawk, as it has the stealth, speed, maneuverability, and armament necessary to engage hostiles while bringing its people home. At number 19, we have the AWC Nyx 301, 303, 304 series of armored weapons carriers. Introduced with the Tanks DLC, the Nyx is classified as a light tank, but that shouldn't be a negative in the eyes of any battlefield commander. The Nyx combines speed with highly mobile firepower. Used effectively, the Nyx can best many foes much more powerful than itself. However, it should never go up against heavily armored or fortified targets without proper support unless no other option presents itself. The Nyx comes in 4 variants: the 301 AT variant armed with a 50 caliber M2 heavy machine gun and a Fire Fist missile pod. While not exceptional at knocking out heavy armor, 2 well-placed missiles in the lightly armored areas will knock out a main battle tank. But as mentioned previously, heavy armor should only be engaged when in a well-fortified position using natural cover and concealment. The 302 variant is the anti-aircraft version, holding 8 SAMI short-range, heat-seeking surface-to-air missiles. These missiles are exceptional at taking down helicopters, often with a single missile, while more resilient targets like wipeouts and neoprones require 2 to 3 missiles to eliminate. Should the missiles fail, the backup 50 cal should finish the job while also protecting against infantry and soft targets. The 303 version is an unarmored recon variant equipped with a telescoping sight and advanced radar capable of sharing enemy unit positions via data link. This capability is considered a force multiplier, giving advanced situational awareness to support elements such as close air support. And finally, the 304 variant is the baseline fire and scout version. Armed with a 20mm autocannon and a 7.62mm coaxial general-purpose machine gun, the 304 makes short work of any infantry and light armor. Capable of firing high explosive or armor-piercing shells The 20mm cannon is capable of knocking out vehicles as heavy as APCs, but shouldn't be put up against enemy heavy armor. The 20mm also makes incredibly short work of any low-flying helicopters. The Nyx is a weak but versatile asset that, when used properly, can rain havoc on unsuspecting enemies. At number 18 is the A143 Buzzard. The Buzzard is a single-seat, single-engine, subsonic, light attack fighter adopted by the Altus Armed Forces. Based on the L159 Alka developed back in the early 2000s, the Buzzard is used as an advanced trainer aircraft as well as a light attack platform capable of close air support, strike, and combat air patrols. Powered by a single turbofan engine, the Buzzard is not capable of supersonic flight. Although lightly armored and capable hands, the A143 is more than able to best a superior adversary. Though incapable of self-lasing targets due to no onboard target pods being available, the 143 can carry laser-guided bombs in order to provide precision strike capability to laser rangefinder equipped infantry forces on the ground. The Buzzard is a solid all-rounder that doesn't necessarily excel in any role, but provides the AAF with a cost-effective, low-maintenance, combat-capable light attack aircraft platform that can hold its own in a fight. At number 17 is the Mi-48 Kajman heavy attack helicopter. The first of the CSAT inventory on our list, the Mi-48 is a powerhouse of a combat helicopter. Armed to the teeth with all but the heaviest firepower, the Mi-48 is able to dish out the punishment while also taking plenty before admitting defeat. Not only a combat helicopter, the Kajman, or more commonly known as NATO callsign Hornet, has the capability to transport 8 fully geared troops into combat. A combination of 3 previous Soviet-era helicopters, the front is modeled after the Mi-28 Havoc, the troop transportation capabilities coming from the Mi-24 Hind, and the coaxial rotor blade design is inspired by the Ka-52, allowing for higher stability while in flight and hovering. The Mi-48's armament consists of a 30mm rotary cannon capable of loading 250 high-explosive and 250 armor-piercing sabot rounds. The gunner has the option to switch between the two at any time. The stub wings carry 2 pylons each, totaling 4 fixed weapons hardpoints for rockets and anti-tank guided missiles. The pylon-loaded weapons are capable of being swapped out for different armaments using the dynamic loadout in the editor. The Hornet is one of the most threatening enemies NATO ground forces can face, and is an incredibly capable aerial asset that the CSAT used extensively throughout the East Wind campaign and beyond. At number 16 is the A149 Gryphon. The first entry from the Jets DLC, the Gryphon is an aging aircraft by the time of the East Wind campaign, but it still has life left in it. Modeled off of the JAS-39C Gryphon, the A149 is much a product of its ancestral design. Simplicity of maintenance, ease of use, and cost-effectiveness make the A149 the perfect intermediate multi-role aircraft for the AAF forces, and a great complement to the A143 Buzzard. While not the fastest, most armored, or most advanced aircraft in ArmA 3, it holds its own just enough in every category to be considered a real threat in all realms of conflict. Its air-to-ground capabilities, while somewhat limited, are still capable. Able to mount double racks for AGM-65s, it can take a total of 6 anti-tank guided missiles into the fight. A pair of Gryphons with this loadout can decimate a platoon of tanks and seriously set back an invading force. A true multi-role aircraft, the Gryphon can contend with enemy aerial threats and turn right around and continue on with its precision strike mission using its built-in lightning pod mounted on the starboard side of the fuselage. The camera has limited motion, however, so the strike aircraft must ensure that it doesn't overshoot its target before the camera reaches its gimbal limit. In a dogfight, the Gryphon is one of the more maneuverable aircraft with the smallest turn radius, although this does bleed an immense amount of energy when the turn is too sharp. While it may take care of you against one enemy, you'll be a sitting duck for his wingman, so always make sure to manage your energy effectively. At number 15 is the 2S9 Sochor. The The self-propelled artillery of the CSAT, the 2S9 is a 155mm howitzer turret on top of a heavily modified T-100 chassis. On the outside, the modifications go unnoticed. However, it's the modifications inside that make the 2S9 a powerhouse of direct and indirect fire support. Many internal compartments were reworked to make way for the large autoloader system. The crew compartment has been adjusted to fit the loader while maintaining space for the driver, gunner, and commander. The commander operates the top-mounted anti-personnel and anti-light armor turret that includes a 50 caliber machine gun and a 40mm grenade launcher for close-in fights. The main show, however, is the awesome 155mm main cannon. Shells in all varieties can be found within the 2S9, but the most devastating are the high explosive rounds, packing the biggest bang for the buck. Other awesome rounds include 2 laser-guided rounds, which can lock onto laser designators used by friendly forces, and the cluster munitions that are absolutely devastating to groups of massed infantry. The 2S9's weakness comes with sneak attacks by ground forces, enemy armor, and airstrikes from fast-moving fighters. If the 2S9 is reinforced and protected while supporting an advancing unit, however, not much can stand in its way. At number 14 is the AFV-4 Gorgon. The Armored Fighting Vehicle 4 is modeled after the real-world Pandur II developed by Austria and in use with the Czech Republic Armed Forces. The Gorgon is a heavily armed, medium-armored fighting vehicle that offers moderate protection against battlefield hazards for troops being transported to and from the front lines. When used effectively, the Gorgon can provide excellent fire support for advancing troops, as well as limited anti-armor capability with its Titan missiles. The Titan missiles have 2 fire modes, direct attack and top attack. When the missile is in the top attack mode, it will exit the tube and gain about 200 meters of altitude before starting its descent down onto the weak top armor of enemy vehicles. The 30mm chain gun and the CTWS turret is the Gorgon's primary armament. Capable of firing high explosive and armor-piercing shells with a magazine size of 100 rounds each. The main drawback is the slow reload time of about 40 seconds on each magazine, leaving the vehicle vulnerable if anything advances against it that the coaxial 7.62mm machine gun can't handle. The Gorgon's sole purpose is as an armed infantry transport vehicle, shuttling troops to and from the front lines and providing fire support while in the field. The Gorgon can withstand a decent amount of punishment before falling in combat, with its unarmored wheels being the biggest Achilles heel. If more than 2 of its wheels on either side are destroyed, the vehicle will suffer massive mobility degradation. This will often result in the crew abandoning the vehicle, leaving the infantry it brought to the fight unsupported and vulnerable. The Gorgon is also incredibly tall, having the tallest profile of any IFV in ArmA 3, so an experienced commander knows to use the terrain to their advantage and stay as hidden as possible to maximize their combat effectiveness. At number 13 is NATO's heavy-lift utility helicopter, the CH-67 Huron. Introduced with the helicopter's DLC, the Huron is a fan favorite amongst ArmA 3 players. Whether you need troops, vehicles, or ammunition moved, the Huron can get it done. Identified by its tandem rotor design that dates back to the CH-47 Chinook of previous aircraft generations, the Huron is an outstanding step forward in that legacy of utility helicopter design. Capable of sling loading a maximum of 12,000 kilograms or approximately 26,500 pounds, while also carrying up to 18 fully armed troops into combat. This will weigh the aircraft down significantly, however, and is not advised when in imminent danger from ground fire, as the Huron, as big as it is, has next to no armor. The Huron relies heavily on their strategic mindset of its aircrew, keeping it far away from heavy engagement zones and only venturing in when escorted by gunships. The Huron isn't totally defenseless, being armed with 2 M134 miniguns indoors in the port and starboard side of the aircraft, carrying around 2,000 rounds apiece. This allows the Huron to give light fire support to troops it brings to the fight, but these weapons are very much defensive weapons only, and not meant to be used in a defensive manner unless under the most extreme conditions, such as combat search and rescue operations. Any caliber higher than 7.62 can penetrate the cockpit of the Huron and seriously injure or kill the flight crew, bringing the Huron crashing down. Still, even with these drawbacks, the CH-67 can absolutely turn the tide of a battle by bringing a platoon's worth of infantry, as well as combat and support vehicles and ammunition that keep the fight alive. Logistics wins wars, and the Huron is the epitome of that mindset. At number 12 is the FV720 Mora. The Mora are reconditioned FV-510 British Warrior infantry fighting vehicles, which were bought by the AAF and given a midlife technical upgrade to extend their operational service life by another 20 years or more. As far as IFVs go, the Mora is the most heavily armored infantry fighting vehicle in ArmA 3. But with that improved armor comes a drawback: weight. The Mora is not the most maneuverable in rough terrain, especially compared to its wheeled counterparts in both the AAF, the CSAT, and NATO. The Mora is more of a middle ground weapons platform, not necessarily standing out in any one area except for its improved armor protection. It also carries one less soldier into battle than the Gorgon and CSAT IFV. The last major drawback is the lack of armor-defeating anti-tank guided missiles that both the Gorgon and Kamish possess. All those things considered, it's still an imposing sight on the battlefield. Something about heavy tracked armor has a psychological effect on many troops. The Mora has the ability to get into the fight, offload its troops, and protect them with effective fire support from its 30mm primary cannon, and if necessary, its coaxial 7.62 machine gun. The Mora absolutely needs infantry escort while carrying out urban operations, as it lacks a top-mounted remote-controlled weapon turret and is effectively blind when in between buildings, opening the door to RPG ambushes where the thick armor of the Mora is much less effective. Optional slat armor is an absolute must when the Mora is deployed to urban operations. Commanders that send them into cities without it are signing their men's death warrant. At number 11 we have the IFV-6a Cheetah. Practically just an IFV-6C Panther with an anti-aircraft turret on top, the Cheetah forgoes the troop cargo capacity for storage of ammunition for its 35mm anti-aircraft cannons and extra Titan AA missiles. The autocannons chew through aircraft without mercy, at a fire rate of approximately 1,100 rounds a minute. While not as heavily armored as its parent vehicle, the Panther, the Cheetah does have stronger offensive capability. Even though the 6A is designed to bring down airborne threats, the cannons can be brought to bear against enemy ground forces if necessary. The high rate of fire coupled with the high explosive rounds of the cannons absolutely shreds enemy infantry in a violent display of firepower, and to a certain extent capable of knocking out lightly armored assets such as technicals and support vehicles. However, those lightly armored vehicles should be the extent of which the Cheetah should be expected to engage ground vehicles, as anything more armored than that is just a waste of the ammunition, and ultimately an improper use of the Cheetah's abilities. Capable of donning camo netting to increase its ability to stay hidden, the Cheetah will absolutely ruin someone's day should it get the opportunity. The primary drawbacks of the Cheetah is its long reload times. 50 seconds to reload a set of Titan missile racks, and its lack of true armor means the Cheetah should absolutely be supported while engaged in combat operations. The Cheetah is best utilized as a close-in base defense, as well as mobile AA when attached to heavy armor platoons. Executed properly, the Cheetah can clear the sky of any hostiles while the tanks mop up any hard targets. At number 10 is the WY-55 Hellcat of the Altus Armed Forces. The Hellcat is a direct upgrade from the Augusta Westland AW-159 Wildcat used by the British Army and Royal Navy. The Hellcat provides light utility options to all-team commanders as well as mixed close air support to ground forces. Using the dynamic loadout system, the Hellcat has the option of switching out 2 of its 4 pylons to customize its weapons based on the upcoming sortie's parameters. For example, if enemy armor is expected, a triple or quadruple rack of scalpel anti-tank guided missiles would help make short work of enemy heavy vehicles. Likewise, a 20mm gun pod would help make even shorter work of enemy infantry and light vehicles with its high explosive ammunition. The two M134 miniguns mounted on the inside racks are permanent weapons and are incapable of being switched out, but provide an insane amount of ammunition downrange to keep the enemy's heads down. These rounds are also helpful at night, as the tracer fire can help ground forces lacking night vision the ability to see where the enemy is at. As mentioned previously, the Hellcat is capable of light utility work, able to carry 6 fully armed troops into combat no matter what weapons configuration is selected. The main drawback of the Hellcat, however, is its relatively thin armor plating and open cargo door, which offers zero protection for crew and troops loaded into the cargo. The other drawback is its incredibly small sling loading capability of a measly 2,000 kilograms, meaning it can only lift small civilian vehicles and cargo or ammunition containers. This isn't an ideal strategic mover, and thus the Hellcat should not be relied upon to conduct the bulk of any mass transportation operations. Instead, it should be primarily tasked in a gunship role with limited transportation capability. While not necessarily excelling in any particular role, the Hellcat is still a fearsome weapon system when employed correctly by commanders. This can be a difficult task, as the Hellcat's rotors are the loudest of all helicopters in ArmA 3, able to be heard up to 3 kilometers away, making it impossible for the Hellcat to be stealthy or stay hidden. These drawbacks aside, the Hellcat is a great in-between jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none aircraft that can easily be the difference between victory or defeat for AAF forces engaged in combat. At number 9 is the MBT-52 Kuma of the AAF. The Kuma is directly modeled off of the Leopard 2 main battle tank of the German armed forces, specifically the Revolution upgrade package developed by Rheinmetall Defense that is designed to enhance the Leopard 2's urban combat capabilities. Heavily armored and even more heavily armed, the Kuma is the backbone of the AAF's armored brigades. The Kuma's main armament is the 120mm smoothbore L55 cannon developed for the Leopard 2 A6, built and licensed by Rheinmetall Armaments. The Kuma's cannon is the most dominant and accurate tank cannon in ArmA 3. Functionally identical to that of both the M2A1A4 Slammer and the Rhino mobile gun system, the Kuma's cannon has slightly increased range and precision, making it capable of hitting and destroying targets as far as 5 kilometers away. The gunner has the option of using a laser rangefinder that automatically calculates the correct trajectory when looking at targets at long range. After lasing, the fire control system takes approximately 1 second to configure the adjusted firing solution, after which the gunner is able to make an almost guaranteed hit. The Kuma is balanced between survivability and maneuverability. While not as well armored as the M2A4 Slammer, it is significantly faster and easier to handle on roads and rough terrain. In fire and maneuver drills, the Kuma is the king, giving it the edge when in combat against superior forces. The commander's external gun system allows for an extra set of eyes, as well as the 7.62mm heavy machine gun to be brought to bear against potential threats. This external gun system was implemented when the Kuma's initial development model was found to be extremely vulnerable in urban combat environments. Thus, the topside turret was added, giving 360 degrees of security against ambushing infantry as well as defense against low-flying aircraft. Capable of mounting slat armor to protect its engine compartment instead of the standard armor plating means more protection against weapons like RPGs, while the front and sides are still protected against enemy heavy armor and anti-tank weaponry. Adding camo nets make the tank near invisible in the right conditions, allowing for well-synchronized crews to absolutely devastate advancing enemy forces. The Kuma is every CSAT and NATO tank commander's worst nightmare. At number 8 is the M2A1A4 Slammer. Largely considered one of the most well-protected main battle tanks in the world, the Slammer is the direct derivative of the Merkava Mark 7 of the Israeli Defense Forces, save for a few differences. The Slammer does not have the optional 60mm mortar that the Mark 7 Merkava does, nor is its built-in trophy anti-missile system functional. These limitations, seemingly, were implemented by the IDF when the tanks were sold to NATO to be used in the Altian conflict. Even without these modifications, the Slammer is a powerhouse of an armored vehicle. Easily the most defensive vehicle in ArmA 3, particularly amongst the 4 main battle tanks, the Slammer's engine is located in the front, which adds a significant amount of protection for the crew. Additionally, the Slammer has the option of carrying up to 6 fully armed troops into combat, doubling as a heavily armored infantry fighting vehicle when necessary. This capability is further enhanced in the A4 variant, which is purpose-built and designed to fight in urban environments, with a top-mounted remote turret that houses a 50 caliber machine gun that protects against advancing infantry and low-flying aircraft. All of this up-armored protection has a serious drawback in mobility. The Slammer is heavy and lumberous, often getting stuck on medium-sized rocks and becoming immobilized, requiring a repair vehicle to come assist it. A hell of a thing to have to do in the middle of a combat engagement. The Slammer's main gun, the 120mm L44 smoothbore cannon, is one of the most effective in ArmA 3, second in line only to the MBT-52 Kumas. The Slammer is able to knock out most armored targets in one well-placed shot, and is effective out to 1,500 meters with a maximum range of 4,000 meters, or 4 kilometers. Firing either high explosive anti-tank or armor-piercing sabot rounds, the Slammer is capable of tangling with any vehicle in ArmA and able to continue on in its operations. Coupled with its coaxial 7.62mm machine gun and top-mounted 50 cal, the Slammer can not only hold the line, but with infantry in its belly can advance the line and overwhelm the enemy with extreme violence of action. At number 7 is the AH-99 Blackfoot, the primary attack helicopter of the NATO forces during the Altian conflict. The Blackfoot was designed back in the early 1990s, and although the project was ultimately cancelled, eventually the need arose for a stealthy attack platform that could also double as a reconnaissance vehicle for advancing ground forces. The AH-99 was born, and subsequently immediately entered service with NATO. The Blackfoot's stealth translates to more than just radar cross-section. The blades are constructed in a way that makes them much quieter than their CSAT and AAF counterparts, giving the Blackfoot the ability to literally sneak up on its targets before they can properly react and return fire. The Blackfoot is light and fast, and thus doesn't have a lot of armor plating to speak of. In fact, it's very susceptible to ground fire in all forms, even small arms if the volume is high enough. This means the Blackfoot must utilize its stealthy profile and, when necessary, its speed in order to evade enemies or straight up run from the fight. The AH-99 is not defenseless though, carrying a nose-mounted triple-barrel 20mm rotary cannon that's effective against all but the heaviest armor. The weapons pylons are stored on folding doors that are concealed when in stealth mode, but take about 1.5 seconds to unfold and deploy. Capable of holding up to 6 anti-tank guided missiles, or a mixture of missiles and rockets, the Blackfoot can destroy any enemy vehicle unfortunate enough to be spotted, but the AH-99 pilot needs to act quickly in order to keep the enemy from firing at it and damaging one of its critical avionics systems. Thanks to its folding wings, the front profile of the Blackfoot is incredibly small, making it a very hard target to hit from the straight on. The Blackfoot is best utilized as a support element, and not the tip of the advancing force unless tasked on recon missions in terrain suited to cover and conceal the aircraft. As the Blackfoot is an advanced aircraft, every action must be taken to keep the aircraft's advanced technology out of the hands of the CSAT and AAF forces should it be shot down. If the aircraft cannot be recovered, destroying it completely and rendering the avionics useless and unable to be reverse engineered is the preferred method of disposal. All battlefield commanders should ensure their Blackfoots are never operating in an unsupported area of operations. At number 6 is the FA-181 Black Wasp II combat aircraft. Introduced in the Jets DLC, the 181 is a true multi-role aircraft. Primarily operating from aircraft carriers like the USS Freedom, the 181 is equally capable of performing its duties from austere air bases and locations. A combination of the FA-18 and the F-35 fighter program, the FA-181 is an excellent combat aircraft that boasts not only stealth, but a diverse set of weaponry and thus a diverse mission set. Capable of nearly every airborne operation available save for aerial refueling, the Black Wasp II is extremely flexible. It can carry a mixture of air-to-air and air-to-ground weaponry and seamlessly switch between both missions on the fly, while also excelling at both. The nose-mounted EOTS, or Electro-Optical Targeting System, allows for advanced target acquisition and guidance for smart munitions, a holdover feature from the previous F-35 program. The internal weapons bays allow for two variants of the Black Wasp to be operated, the stealth version and the heavy version. The stealth version is all slick with no weapons pylons on the wings, and all weapons stored in the internal weapons bays. This limits the mission set a little, as the large AGM-88C HARM can only be stored on the underwing pylons, so seed missions are outside of the stealth version's abilities. It is still a formidable platform, capable of storing 2 short-range air-to-air missiles, as well as up to 6 medium-range BVR missiles like the AIM-120D AMRAAM. A typical combat load is 2 short-range missiles, 2 AMRAAMs, and 2 GBU-12 guided bombs. The heavy version adds onto the loadout capabilities of the stealth version by adding 2 weapon hardpoints on each wing, doubling the firepower a single aircraft can bring to the fight, at the expense of a larger radar cross-section. One of the most important roles of the 181 is the suppression of enemy air defenses, or SEAD, which is absolutely imperative if air supremacy is to be achieved. Often, SEAD aircraft will be sent in ahead of advancing forces in order to seek out and destroy the enemy anti-air artillery before it poses a threat to the advancing main body. Close-in dogfighting is to be avoided where possible, as the 181 is not the most maneuverable, focusing on its beyond visual range combat ability, and thus must ensure more agile fighters do not make it in close enough to take advantage of the Black Wasp's sluggish flight profile. As this is an advanced stealth aircraft, similar recovery measures to that of the AH-99 must be taken when an aircraft is lost in combat. At number 5 is the Guardian of the Sky, the V-44 Blackfish. A monster of strategic movement for NATO forces, the nearest CSAT competitor can't even hold half of the cargo capacity of the Blackfish. Available in 3 variants: the gunship, the vehicle hauler, and the troop transport. The troop transport can carry up to 32 fully armed troops in its cargo compartment, bringing a massive punch to the fight. This gives NATO the only aircraft capable of solely reinforcing a front line en masse, bringing entire platoons as well as vehicles to create mechanized units on the spot. Commanders would do well to utilize the ability wherever the front line is faltering. The gunship version is a direct descendant to the AC-130s of the past, providing overwhelming fire support and allowing troops in contact to be supported by an aircraft that can loiter as long as required. The weapons from the AC-130 are all carried over, which includes the 20mm Vulcan cannon, the 40mm Bofors cannon, and the 105mm M102 howitzer. The Blackfish can stop advancing vehicle columns and lay waste to companies of infantry in seconds, and is one of the most powerful assets in NATO's arsenal as a result. The primary drawback of the V-44 is that it is massive. There is absolutely zero chance that stealth can be maintained when the V-44 is present. As a result, she is only seen during initial invasion stages of an operation or when a gunship is needed overhead, and by that time, stealth is out the window. The Blackfish is also very hard to control in flight and has an extremely sluggish flight profile as a result of her huge wings and massive fuselage. The positives outweigh the negatives, however, and the V-44 should be considered as often as mission parameters will allow. At number 4 is the T-140K Angara main battle tank. Introduced with the Tanks DLC, the T-140K is the commander derivative of the baseline T-140. This version features enhanced data link receiver transmitters that allow the tank to not only receive information from other data linked vehicles, but also transmit that information to other vehicles, which greatly enhances situational awareness of battlefield commanders. Accurate battlefield information is just as critical as a well-placed shot, if not more. Thus, the T-140K is given to commanders that have shown capable of coordinating troops using the data. The other primary difference in the commander version as opposed to the baseline T-140 is the 30mm remote-controlled top-mounted autocannon that replaces the 50 cal RCWS turret. This 30mm autocannon is operated by the commander and is an excellent addition to the T-140K's already impressive weapons loadout. Capable of destroying light vehicles and damaging heavier ones, the autocannon is also adept at bringing down low-flying aircraft with ease. This lessens the burden on the gunner, who can focus on enemy armor instead of having to switch back and forth between infantry and vehicles, as well as extends the main cannon ammunition to focus solely on tanks and reinforced structures. The crew compartment is uniquely designed to keep the crew as low as possible. Only the ammunition and autoloader mechanism are in the turret. As a result, the crew sit side by side in the hull of the main chassis and look through advanced multifunction displays in order to view what's happening outside the tank. This allows for unprecedented crew cohesion. Armored to the brim with explosive reactive armor as well as shaped ceramic plates, the Angara is a tough nut to crack for any NATO or AAF tank commander, and should be engaged with extreme caution. At number 3 is the M5 Sandstorm. This unit is a bit of a favorite of mine, as the destruction it can render is absolutely massive. Properly supported with vehicle ammunition and reinforced with ground troops, the Sandstorm can rain hell down onto Earth and absolutely obliterate entire enemy companies and installations in a matter of seconds. The 230mm high explosive rockets in the Sandstorm pack one of the largest punches of any single weapon in ArmA 3, save for precision guided bombs from aircraft. Utilizing only a driver and gunner, the M5 is their strategic key, the Power Fist, used by NATO commanders to walk through any door they want, as long as the ammunition stores stay full and keep the M5s firing. A single salvo from the Sandstorm can completely restructure an entire town or small city, proving that even the most well-defended and dug-in forces are not safe from the Sandstorm's fury. The primary drawback of the M5, however, is its complete lack of self-defense weaponry. If even a single anti-tank soldier comes within range of an unsupported M5, it's game over for that crew. NATO commanders are urged to keep their Sandstorms far behind enemy lines and protected by both mechanized ground forces and air assets when possible. At number 2, we have another crowd favorite, the AH-9 Pawnee and MH-9 Hummingbird family of helicopters. Based on the civilian MD-500 helicopter, the Dash 9 family of helos replaced the aging AH-6 used by the US Army since the Vietnam War. Small, fast, and nimble, the AH-9 can dash around the battlefield, providing a hail of 7.62mm fire from its dual M134 miniguns, or a few well-placed rockets for harder targets. The AH-9 can use dynamic loadouts to swap out the rocket pods for other munitions like a single anti-tank guided missile or an air-to-air ASRAM, giving them Pawnee a multifaceted mission set. The MH-9 is a favorite of special operators as it's quick and quiet and allows them to infiltrate almost any location with ease. Capable of carrying up to 4 troops on its benches, it's perfect in a Spec Ops capacity, as well as quick insertion missions for combat search and rescue operations. The Pawnee and the Hummingbird have 0 armor and thus are not expected to last in a fight. They are extremely exposed with no doors, so a single well-placed round can incapacitate the pilot and bring the helo down. As such, the Pawnee relies completely on its speed and the skill of its pilot to get it in and out of combat unscathed. And finally, at number 1, we have the A164 Wipeout. The A164 is the next generation A-10, combining the ease of maintenance, massive weapon load, GAU-8 Avenger cannon, and its signature elevated engine design. Given a 21st century structural architecture, the A164 is death incarnate. Able to bring its GAU-8 to bear just like its predecessor, the weapon is an AAF and CSAT tank commander's worst nightmare, and a NATO commander's wet dream. Capable of carrying an eye-watering amount of firepower, a single flight of wipeouts can make short work of any advancing unit, no matter what size. The enemy's only hope is that they brought enough anti-aircraft guns to keep the wipeout at bay. Even then, the 164's advanced ground targeting radar can pick out the AA guns and ensure that they cut the head off of that snake before it can even try to bite. But brute force isn't the only capability of the Wipeout. Advanced precision-guided munitions are also available, such as the GBU-12, capable of destroying almost any target with a single well-placed bomb. The Wipeout can hold a maximum of 10 GBU-12s or an incredible 24 AGM-65s, though this is a little overpowered. The Wipeout can carry everything from rockets to dumb bombs, air-to-air missiles to guided and cluster bombs. There's really nothing like advancing on an enemy reinforced position only for a Wipeout to hit it with a strafing run before you get there. The sheer firepower is awe-inspiring. And it puts a smile on my face every time. The 164 is not without its drawbacks, however. It's a heavy aircraft, taking much longer to get up to speed when loaded with heavy ordnance than its CSAT counterpart. Since it's a little on the slower side, it's also vulnerable to ground fire. Its most notable drawback is its lack of suppression of enemy air defense weaponry, so if heavy enemy SAM sites are known to be in the vicinity, the Wipeout won't stand much of a chance until those SAMs are knocked out. All in all, the Wipeout is an awesome futuristic rendition of a classic weapons platform. One that has won the hearts of many. And one that continues to knock out tank after tank, bunker after bunker, well into the 21st century. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for spending your time with me today. If you couldn't tell, I'm very much a proponent of the NATO and AAF factions, and I'm not crazy about the CSAT assets. There are a few that are awesome, and some that deserve merit, but man, I can't get over that bubble helmet. That thing just absolutely killed any hard-on for CSAT I ever started to kit. They do have some pretty cool small arms though, and if this vehicle is successful enough, I'll start work on another video of top 20 weapons of ArmA 3. I'd like to give a special shout out to my loyal patrons whose donations to the channel are greatly appreciated. All of you that like, subscribe, and comment on my videos with your insight and appreciation are the motivation I need to keep creating content. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe, and maybe even hop into my Discord and come shoot the shit with me or share a screenshot or two. The link is down below in the description. If you really love my content, consider becoming a patron to help support my work. I primarily make ArmA 3 content and would love your guys' suggestions in the comments section. I will do my best to continue answering as many comments as I can. Thank you all so much again for watching, and I will see you in the next video.